Hello everybody. In this video, I will be covering subtraction across 0. So let's start off with a problem, 300 minus 4. Notice the 0, which is above our 4, is smaller than 4, which means we need to borrow. So the problem arises here because to the left of our 0, we have a 0, which means we need to borrow from the 3. So we need to go over this 0 or across this 0 to borrow from our 3. So the 3 becomes a 2, and the 0 in the middle becomes a 9, and the 0 we started with becomes a 10. So we have 10 minus 4, which is 6. We drop the 9 and we drop the 2. So we have 296. So we went across the 0 to borrow from the 3. Anytime you go across a 0, that 0 becomes a 9. So even if we had 302 minus 4, notice the 2 is still smaller than the 4, so we need to borrow. Again, we can't borrow from the 0, so we need to go across the 0 to the 3. So the 3 becomes a 2, and again, we're going across the 0, so this 0 becomes a 9, and now this 2 becomes a 12. So 12 minus 4 is 8. We drop the 9 and we drop the 2. Okay, so it doesn't matter if we start with a 0, we start with a 2. Since we went across a 0 to borrow, that 0 becomes a 9. If we had a problem, let's say 300 minus 20. In this case, 0 minus 0 is 0. And now we're starting from this 0 here. The 0 is less than 2, and we're going to borrow from the 3, which becomes a 2. But this 0 stays a 10, right? It does not become a 9. So we're not going across the 0, right? If we're not going across the 0, we don't need to change the 0 to a 9. So here we have 10 minus 2, which is 8, and we drop the 2, and we have 280. All right, let's do one more example problem. If I had 3,000 minus 4, now again, the 0 is less than 4, so we need to borrow. We have 2 zeros to the left of our original 0, so we need to go across both of the zeros and borrow from our 3. Our 3 becomes a 2, and both of these zeros that we went across become 9s. So anytime you go across a 0 to borrow, they become a 9. And this 0 that we started with becomes a 10. So we have 10 minus 4, which is 6. We drop the 9, we drop the 9, and we drop the 2. And that's it.